You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're still live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We earlier indicated that we're having a second topic, which is on your pension and you. To discuss that, we're being joined from our Lagos Network Center by Jide Alo, is Head Investment Management at Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. Jide Alo, we're glad to have you on the program this morning. Managers. Jide Alo, we're glad to have you on the.
Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you very much for having me.
Let's begin. Just clear this for us, because it appears that doubts are being cast on the contributory pension system that ordinarily was supposed to provide tremendous relief to pensioners against the previous pension system that we had. It looks like those who are participants in the contributory pension scheme have difficulties even drawing down on their pensions when they do qualify. What are the issues around pensions these days before we get into some of the things that IBTC is doing?
Okay, thank you very much, Kingsley. So as Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers, we ensure that our retirees receive their pensions at the middle of every month. The pensions are paid about the 15th day of every month, right? And even as the industry, I'm not aware that there are challenges with people receiving their monthly pension payments. Now, it's also important to understand that there is a process in place to ensure that when you retire, you don't have to wait before your pension contribution starts flowing in. Now, what do I mean? For instance, we ensure that we hold pre-retirement seminars. For people who are about 2 years to retirement, there will be seminars across the nation to ensure that we educate them on the documents they need to present, ensuring that their accounts are properly updated. For instance, there's an ongoing process across the industry which is called data recapture, which aims to ensure that all pension fund administrators have the right records of the contributors on file. Now, those are the things that would ensure that when somebody eventually retires, that's not the point where you would discover that, oh, your age on file and the age on the documents you are presenting does not align, or there is a name mismatch, and all those kind of challenges. Those are typically what leads to delay in concluding the process that will allow retirees to be able to draw on their pension. So my point this morning is that if we do the right thing as pension contributors, ensuring that our records are up to date, we show up for seminars towards retirement to ensure that we are educated regarding critical developments in the industry, then when you retire and you submit the document, it should be a straight-through process, no azus whatsoever, towards ensuring you get your pension, you get your pensions on a monthly basis thereafter.
Well, Mr. Gigi, apart from the frustration some pensioners have been, talking about, retirees that have left the service, a lot of people are also interested in what happens to their pension funds. What do IBTC do with their pension fund? How do their pension contributions generate, interest for them?
Now, that's a very interesting question. So, the way pension funds are managed is that as Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers, we have a robust process in place from the point where the contributions are paid in by the employers towards ensuring that we record the data correctly and our contributors' accounts are properly reconciled at all times. So, for instance, sometimes your employer makes a transfer into your account. Maybe they didn't put the right employment details or something. The contribution may not flow through. So we have a process to quickly identify those inconsistencies, and then we engage the employers to ensure that they regularize and provide the proper data to enable us to capture those contributions. Now, once the contributions are properly captured, the next thing is now, how do we manage the funds? As Stanbic IBTC pension managers, our goal is to see our clients retire well. Now, for them to be able to retire well, that means that we have to ensure that we manage the assets in a way that generates competitive long-term returns. Now, that involves ensuring that when we are introducing assets into the portfolio, we scope the risk of those assets properly. So safety is a critical pillar in our investment decision. Now, the other point is that there are various funds in the industry. For instance, we manage 6 public funds at Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. Now, each of those funds have their unique risk profile. So it's important for contributors to ensure that they are in the appropriate fund. Now, if you are watching us this morning and you are not even sure the fund you are in, or you don't even know why you are in that particular fund, I will encourage you this morning to engage your pension fund administrator. Let them guide you towards ensuring that you are in the appropriate fund. Now, once a contributor is in the appropriate fund and we make those decisions on the assets that we're investing in, we also ensure that the risk profile of the assets fits the risk of that fund, and then we ensure ultimately that we are monitoring those assets. Of course, just like the conversations we've been having this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, there are macroeconomic factors that actually impact on the assets that we invest in. So we ensure that we are reading those drivers in the economy, and where there is a need to make a change, we are making those appropriate changes towards ensuring that the funds continue to deliver long-term returns. So for instance, our legacy funds, the Fund 2 and Fund 4, have generated over 400% returns each from inception to date. That's how we are ensuring that our contributors are receiving value for their pension contributions.
Judith, thank you very much for your explanation. But again, for the benefit of our viewers, just walk us through the process. 2 of the aspects. One, for those who are in formal employment, and therefore the checkoff can easily be captured for the employer's contribution and then the employee's own contribution. At what point does the retiree begin to access? Because as I asked earlier, some persons are having challenges accessing their annuity, once they retired. Some have to wait for a year or longer. And then for those who are self-employed, how does it work?
Thank you. So I'll pick the self-employed first. That's very easy. For those who are self-employed, their contributions come into what we call a micro pension scheme. Now, the micro pension scheme is such that it has more flexibilities around it. By that I mean every contribution that comes in, 60% of it goes into your retirement benefit, while 40% is available for a withdrawal after 90 days from that point when you made that contribution. So that's an additional benefit for those who are in the informal sector. You can actually assess your contribution 90 days after you have made the contribution, should you have a need to do so. Now, for those who are in formal employment, the standard age is that once you are 50 years and above, you can access your pension balance. Now, for you to access it, are basically those 2 things. Is either you have met the minimum age requirement, or you are accessing your pension because you have been out of job for over 4 months. For those who are out of job, after 4 months, you are required to present appropriate documentation, which would include your notice of retirement, your notice of resignation, or if the person was fired by the employer, you provide those documents, and then we apply to the pension commission, and you'll be able to access up to 25% of your balance in your RSA account only once in a lifetime. Once you access that 25%, you then need to wait till you meet the minimum age for retirees for you to be able to access the balance. So that's basically, those are the 2 things. Now, what I said earlier is that at the point of retirement, people tend to wait until they retire before they now start asking, okay, what do I actually need to access my funds? You shouldn't do that. As Standard IBTC pension managers, we engage our clients very actively. And for those who are close to retirement, from the point where it's 2 years to retirement, you will start receiving communication from us to say we're inviting you to a pre-retirement seminar, because life after retirement is completely different. So even beyond pension, we want to ensure that our clients actually have the right information regarding what to expect upon retirement, those basic changes in their lifestyle, how to plan towards it. So we have all of those engagements with them, and more importantly, as part of that process, we then provide a list of the documents required for you to access your pension. And once you provide those documents, your accessing your pension should be very, very easy. There shouldn't be any challenge with it at all. It just goes through the process where pension commission would verify those documents that have been presented, and they will give us approval for us to be disbursing the funds into your account. Obviously, there are basically 2 points of access. There is what you call the lump sum payment, and then there is the monthly pension that you then can receive. And of course, there is also an option for those who may want to subscribe into an annuity program. All of those interactions will take place with your pension fund administrator once you notify them that you are about to retire or you have retired.
Julia, please clarify this again for our viewers, because these are some of the complaints that we hear. I'm sure that it is not to all would-be retirees that you send your communication to that will then respond to your invitation to attend a seminar. Some of them just wait until retirement hits them, and then they are out. They turn 60 or 35 years in service, and then they are out. All this documentation that you are asking for, what kind of documents? Because sometimes the pension fund managers also send out congratulatory messages even before the person is 60 or 35 years old. Today is your birthday. Congratulations. We wish you the very best. So you already have a record. So if the person turns 60, what else is the person supposed to do?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Essentially, in fact, what is going on in the industry today to avoid these challenges is what we call data recapture. Now, the process of data recapture is that process where we are syncing the identity of each pension contributor with the National Identity Management System, right? And of course, in that portal, all the important information would already be captured. Your full name to ensure that it's properly written, your date of birth to avoid the kind of inconsistency that you alluded to, details of your employment, all of those things are already properly captured. So if you go through that data recapture process, then getting into retirement should be very easy, because that is the point where the data is properly synced. So rather than listing documents right now, I think that is what we need to encourage contributors to do. Go through that process of data recapture. How do you go through the process? Reach out to your pension fund administrator at Stanbic IBTC. If you visit our website, which is stanbicibtcpension.com, you would find the list of documents that you need towards retirement in terms of a checklist. But more importantly, you would also find a link that you can use for data recapture. You can initiate the process right from your desk in your office or in your home. You initiate the process, and it's at the final stage where you then just need to do thumb printing. That's when you will need to visit any of our locations across the nation.
Mr. Jide, we hear about, in the news about, government planning on using pension fund, which has got a lot of pensioners or would-be pensioners worried. So what exactly does this mean, and how does it affect the pension fund owners themselves?
Thank you very much. That's an interesting question. So, I would say that there's a lot of sensational news in the public, particularly on social media platforms, regarding the fact that government is trying to access pension funds. Now, to allay the fears of our audience this morning, the first thing we need to know is that pension funds assets are already fully invested. They are not sitting in cash somewhere in one bank account where by fiat or by one swift policy somebody can come and access them. That is not the case. The investments that we make in federal government securities, and today there is about 64% of pension fund assets are invested in federal government securities, which are federal government bonds or treasury bills. Now, those investments are contractual obligations. Contractual in the sense that they have a fixed interest rate or coupon, and they also have definite maturity dates, right? So it's money that you know and you can plan for. You know the interest that it is earning. You know when you are going to receive your principal upon maturity. That is the kind of investment interaction that we have with the federal government. So the money is not sitting in cash for a new policy to alter it. Now, the other thing to note is that across the world, pension funds invest in sovereign instruments, whether it's US, whether it's Canada, whether it's South Africa. Pension funds typically have somewhere between 50 to 70% of their funds invested in federal government. And the reason it is so is because the sovereign instruments are supposed to be the safest assets that pension funds can invest in. That's why it is so. Now, what is it that we are really looking forward to as pension fund operators? As part of the conversation we've had on Good Morning Nigeria today, there is a significant deficit in our infrastructure across the nation, whether it's road, whether it's bridges, whether it's hospital. I'm sure we all agree that there is a need for significant investment in that regard. So what pension fund administrators are doing, working with the National Pension Commission and critical stakeholders in the private sector, is to come up with appropriate vehicles that will allow us to deploy pension fund assets to finance this critical infrastructure, which obviously done right would help in increasing the quality of life and standard of living for Nigerians. It will help us in ensuring that we fix the infrastructure gap. More importantly, it would also ensure that pension funds can now invest in assets that are long-term in nature and can generate predictable returns. So ultimately, it's a win-win for all the stakeholders. Hence, our audience, you should not be apprehensive. There is nothing like government is trying to take over pension fund assets. That's not true. The interaction that pension funds are having with federal government are voluntary. We invest in those assets voluntarily, and we invest in line with the return expectations that we have for the funds that we manage.
What's your advice to anyone who is already working but doesn't have a pension plan because he or she doesn't believe in the pension system?
If you're in that category this morning, I would say without mincing words that you are doing a great disservice to yourself by not being part of the national pension scheme if indeed you qualify. And everybody qualifies, because you can be in the informal sector where you make voluntary contribution into your pension scheme, or you can be in the formal sector where in collaboration with your employer you make monthly contribution into the pension scheme. Now, the scheme is not perfect, we agree. However, it is the best that we have in country for a proper structured retirement plan, which everybody needs, given the fact that we also know that the social gap or the social safety net for the nation is still very, very fragile. So you have to take responsibility for your own old age by ensuring that you are in a pension scheme that is actively being contributed into. And if you are not in that right now, I mean, a few benefits maybe I can get you across the line this morning. Every contribution that comes into your pension fund account actually benefits from tax savings, somewhere between 15 and 20 to 25%, depending on the tax bracket that you find yourself. Secondly, the funds that come into your pension fund, for instance, can now be used as mortgage. You can use it as contribution towards a mortgage up to 25% of your pension fund assets. So why are you not in it? If you would like to sign on today, I'd like to encourage you, reach out to Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. You can contact us at stanbicibtcpension.com. You can call us on 012716000. You can send a mail to pensionsolution@stanbicibtc.com, and we will be glad to support you and provide you with relevant information to get you signed up into the National Pension Scheme.
Mr. Jide Ayo, Head Investment Management, Stanbic IBTC Pension Management. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's take our sports now.
That's been Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow for another package at time 7 in the morning. Look after yourselves, and Kingsley is out.
And I am Jim Yusuf. Do have a great day. Thank you.